Welcome everybody to another episode of Into The Stratusphere. Happy Halloween, y'all. I'm your girl Cindy G here. If you guys are watching it on the Bulletcast YouTube channel, I am dressing up as a Giants fan, y'all. I just came back from the AEW Heels party where they hosted the Halloween party. And boy, there's a lot to talk about, y'all. This is what the episode is, episode 13. I have a bad feeling about this. That is the name of this episode, inspired by this week's episode of Impact Wrestling. So, yeah, you guys, I have the hat with me, but as soon as I wore the hat and tried on the headphones, the hat was starting to get a little snug because it was kind of big and I don't want to get it smeared all over my makeup, so I just took it off and, it is what it is. I am dressing up as a Giants fan, I bleed black and orange. Yes, I am aware about the Dodgers winning the World Series. Yeah, digress on that. I really don't care in general, especially during this crazy time. But anyway, you guys, so I hope you guys are doing a very safe Halloween, and I know you guys are going to be planning something within your homes because we're still in this crazy time due to Rona taking over the world. I know trick-or-treating is not going to happen, even though some are going to be bending the rules, especially there's this event called a trunk or treat or something like that along the line. But it's all about making the best memories, especially Halloween is on a Saturday and there's a full moon. All the above. Anyway, you guys, so for today's episode of Into the Stratusphere, we'll talk about a little bit of a news headline. Well, mostly the aftermath update of Bound for Glory regarding Kylie Rae and Heath. And then talking about the AEW Heel event, especially a recent turn at event that went unexpected and that was pretty uncalled for on this past AEW Heel event. Also, results from New Japan Pro Wrestling Power Struggle Tour, the New Japan Strong from the Nova Tour of last week, and for this week's Showdown Tour, and Impact Wrestling's recap, and plus a brief thought about the voting, because I know Philip and Brandon did touch base about what's important about voting, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit about it because I know November 3rd is just around the corner and this is the very important day ever for this country. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So anyway, guys, so before I get into all that, there's a sad news to break. So as you guys know that this past week, we lost another wrestling legend, former WWE/WCW/ ECW legend and a very well-known in the indies, Tracy Smothers, has passed away at the age of 58 from a lifelong battle with cancer. It is pretty devastating in the wrestling community, especially for people that knew Tracy Smothers. Now, I'm not familiar with Tracy Smothers' work, within those major promotions, but I heard about him through the indies. But he's a pretty much a all-around role model for some of the talents, especially up-and-coming stars. A lot of the wrestlers has been speaking about their favorite memories with Tracy. And yeah, you guys, it's really sad, especially we lost another wrestling legend altogether for this year. So my heart goes out to the friends, family, loved ones, colleagues and fans of Tracy Smothers. May he rest in peace. Anyway, guys, so that is it for the sad news. I also wanted to say something real quick before I get into the wrestling headlines. So you guys know that I used to do the results and also upcoming shows that you could watch on IWTV and Fight TV, independent wrestling news. Well, unfortunately, because of how the cases of coronavirus is taking over, and also there's a lot of some of the shows are canceling their events from there on, and backlash about it. I decided to put the upcoming shows and results of independent wrestling shows on hold until further notice. like once it blows over, that's where I'm going to start covering independent wrestling results and news and whatnot. But if it's kind of like a major event, kind of like GCW Collective, I'll definitely will cover it. But like anything else along the line, it's going to be on hold until further notice. All right, you guys. So with that being said, so let's go ahead and go into wrestling news. So there is an update going on with Kylie Rae and Heath following the aftermath of Bound for Glory. And I want to make a disclaimer. I will definitely talk about Alex Shelley's injury, which is going to be tied into the recap of this week's Impact Wrestling episode. So just wanted to make everyone aware about. So anyway, you guys, let's go ahead and talk about this major news that everybody's talking about. It's regarding Kylie Rae. So as you guys know, Kylie Rae is scheduled to have a match against Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts title at Bound for Glory, and unfortunately she did not show up in the event. So I know there has been a reports about like she sustained a minor injuries or whatnot, but there's a report from F4W Online that the initial report that the injury is not the case of it. And according to what they say, it's now stating that the source has confirmed that Impact made no announcement on the Knockouts title match change yet because they were unaware with regards to the Kylie Rae situation at the time. The rumor of her being injured through is now said to be inaccurate. The report also noted, much like Fightful did earlier, that Kylie Rae arrived in Nashville, Tennessee on Friday, October 23rd, supposedly ready to work. However, she did not make it into the Skyway Studio building on Saturday, October 24th, which was the day of the pay-per-view, you guys. So, and then there's been reports that, like, everybody was not aware and they were kept into the dark of what's going on with Kylie Rae. However, I know some people did reach out to her and she is okay, but they say that her and Impact Wrestling are still in good terms. Now, I know that a lot of people are kind of like having mixed feelings about Kylie Rae altogether because it kind of piggyback to like her situation with AEW. Like, nobody knows like why she decided to grant a release from AEW and then instead going to Impact Wrestling. It's probably because of like a lot of pressure on her end. I know she's been opening up about her mental health struggles during her interview with Chris Van Vliet. I just feel that, like, I hope she's doing okay, and whatever the circumstances may happen, hopefully she'll be getting things taken care of for her well-being. I know a lot of people are like, was not happy of what happened during Bound for Glory. I want to know what's going on with Kylie Rae and whatnot too. Me and Noah Foster did touch base on the situation on the last episode of Into the Stratusphere where we did recap Bound for Glory, which I highly suggest you guys can check it out, and I already put in my 2 cents about it too. So whatever may happen, hopefully Kylie Rae is okay, and hopefully she'll be back with Impact, because I know on November 17th they're going to be doing a couple tapings for Impact Wrestling. So we'll see what's going on. But yeah, anyway, on another news afterwards on Bound for Glory, you guys remember that Heath posted a picture on Twitter after Bound for Glory where he was at the hospital. So it turns out that according to PWInsider.com, the belief is that he suffered a torn hernia. And according to F4W Online, Heath will likely needed to have surgery. Stated that Heath was taken to the hospital and diagnosed, but was back at the hotel late last night. So it looks like his injury was even that serious, just a torn hernia that occurred during his Call Your Shot match at Bound for Glory. But I did saw on Facebook Live through Impact Wrestling's Facebook page, which by the way I still do not have a Facebook account. I just went and seen it for research purposes, and they were on the Facebook live stream auctioning off different memorabilia from Impact Wrestling, and especially for Bound for Glory. I know Deonna Purrazzo was there and Heath was there, and he was doing okay too. So I know that he's going to be in recovery for quite a while, which I know is going to be played in one of the storyline, which I'll get into that once we go into the coverage of this week's Impact Wrestling. Just saying, y'all. So whatever the case would be, hopefully he'll be getting better soon and ready to go, no matter what the circumstances is. Anyway, you guys, and on the last news before going to this next segment, that's right. Serena Deeb, which she recently got signed to AEW, is now your new NWA Women's Champion. She defeated Thunder Rosa on the last episode of Primetime Live, and it was, from what I heard, it was a pretty solid match altogether, and people were pretty shocked about Serena Deeb becoming the new champion, but hey, I'm all for it. She definitely deserves the credit where credit is due. And she had her first title defense match was at AEW Dynamite against Layla Hirsch. Originally for the AEW Dynamite episode, it was supposed to be Tay Conti versus Abaddon, but due to like an injury that occurred during the taping of AEW Dynamite, that Abaddon has to be rushed to the hospital, which I'll get into the whole Abaddon situation when I discuss AEW Heels party. So, in light of that, so AEW decided to bring in Serena Deeb and Layla Hirsch to do the taping. And it was pretty smart for them that they did a what if that Serena Deeb is the current AEW women's, not AEW, NWA botch. Sorry, the usual botch. Current NWA Women's Champion and have the first title run. I'm glad. I like how they actually have the whole game plan emotion where something is wrong, or what if Serena Deeb is the new champion, or she's just a regular AEW Women's roster member too. So that was pretty awesome. Congratulations to Serena Deeb. Very well deserved to be the champion, and her match against Layla Hirsch at Dynamite was amazing altogether. And I know there has been reports about Thunder Rosa getting signed to WWE. Well, according to what Billy Corgan said on social media, saying that Thunder Rosa is still under contract until 2021. So I know that whatever decision Thunder Rosa will make, like whichever company she'll go, I'll be happy for her no matter what. Even if it's just signed to WWE. I mean, hey, she did work her butt off where she went all the way. I mean, no matter which company she's going to go, everybody's going to go behind her no matter what and continue to support her. I mean, she's freaking awesome. I mean, come on now. So yeah, you guys, so that is it for the top headline news. Now let's go ahead and discuss AEW Heels party. So I know that there was another game night, which I did attend it, but I did not cover it because it was even not too much to discuss. It's just like another Jackbox game that we all play. And it, of course, hosted by Aubrey Edwards and Levi Bates. It's another Jackbox game called the Trivia Murder Party, which was a pretty fun game, actually. So the way things goes, you only have 7 or 9 participants, and you got to answer a kind of like a multiple choice question where if you pick the correct answer, then you're alive. But if you pick a wrong answer, then you have to go into a sudden death round where you have to pick the correct answer. And if you lose, then you died and you'll become a ghost. However, you still can continue to play even if you're a ghost. Because the reason why, because the last person who was alive without getting killed off by the multiple choice question, they have to go into a race where you have to answer so many multiple choices questions, and whoever have who correct answer that, they jump up, and then the rest of the ghost form, they're catching up to the living person. So pretty much it's kind of like a body snatcher type of deal. So it was a pretty fun game. I had a great time for it. Who else was there at that AEW game night besides Leva and Aubrey Edwards? Well, Vicky Guerrero was there. Nyla Rose was there. Who else? Anna Jay was there, and I guess that's it. So yeah. And then for the recent AEW Heel event that I've attended on October 30th, which of course, the day before Halloween, that's why I'm wearing this Halloween costume for those of you who are watching it on the YouTube channel. There has been a very unexpected turn of events. So before the event started, once I logged in, all of a sudden someone hacked the Zoom conference, like posting very offensive videos, signage, and leading up to like a very explicit photo where like the host of the AEW Heels, like for the Zoom conference, had to like make sure cancel everybody there because there has been a lot of technical issues from the main Zoom account, and then the link, and then the hacker got in, and now it's that they actually create a new link, like you have to wait 5 minutes later, and then of course that's where everything went back smoothly, running free of the hacker who was like keep trolling and sending inappropriate stuff for it too. So right when the event started, you have is Mega Park, which you saw her on AEW Dynamite, and she is the attorney for the Jacksonville Jaguar as well. So she came out just as John Moxley. She thanked everyone for coming there and apologized for what happened, how the hacker did enter the AEW Heel group, which is supposed to be a private closed group. I don't know how it happened. And she said that she doesn't tolerate any inappropriate actions or demeanor that is degrading too. And she said, like, we in the AEW, we stand for everyone's belief, everyone's circumstances and everything, not just like, those disgusting random active action. So I'm glad she did start up apologizing to everyone for that. And then now the AEW Heels party too. So there was a Q&A session with Abaddon. Oh, by the way, Abaddon was there on the game night too, and Leva did ask Abaddon a couple questions even though she was in a kind of like a shadow form. Like, it's just a yes or no question where like tap once for no, two for yes on this screen. So it's the only way to communicate with Abaddon. But then again, like for the Q&A session for this AEW Heels party, they play a PowerPoint of Abaddon's questions. Is that while Dasha's reading the question, Abaddon's answer was like all typed in. All until at the end, there's Abaddon dressing up like Chucky. And I'm happy to report that Abaddon is A-okay, even though she did not speak. But to look at her neck, even though she has a little bit of like a scarring, but not really, because I think it's like part of her Halloween like look or something like that. So anyway, so she is doing well. Don't know when's next and we'll be seeing her in ring competition, but we'll see. But she looks amazing in her Chucky costume. And yeah, you guys, so right after the Q&A session, then you have a makeup tutorial by none other than Rebel, aka Reba, where she did a makeover on Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. That's right, y'all. So let's see, who else was there for the AEW Heels party? So we have Brandy, Dasha, Nyla Rose, Vicky Guerrero, Abaddon's there, of course. Chris Statlander, which I'm happy to report that she is doing well and she is still in recovery as well. So it was great seeing Chris Statlander, though. Who else was there? Tay Conti was there with Anna Jay, which was really so awesome. Tay J, y'all. Who else? Big Swole was there as well. The current AEW Women's Champion, Hikaru Shida, was there. And it was fun because there has been a beef going on between Britt and Shida during the AEW Heel event. That was pretty funny, but hey, gotta set up the feud, y'all. Alrighty, and then with that being said, AEW Heels party was a successful party, especially for Halloween. Everybody was dressed in costumes, especially with their favorite AEW roster star like Darby Allin, referee Aubrey Edwards, Abaddon, Rey Fenix, Leva Bates. Some of them were dressing as Leva Bates, Peter Avalon, of course. Someone did dress up as, I think, the Young Bucks. I think it was Matt or Nick Jackson. But hey, it was freaking awesome. Everybody was so dressing up to the whole nine and fabulous. Alright, you guys. So enough of the wrestling headlines and the AEW Heel event party. Let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we're going to hear from Brandon of Curveballs and Chair Shots.
What's up, everyone? It's Brandon. If you love sports and wrestling like I do, then check out my other podcast, Curveballs and Chair Shots. Every Friday, me and my illustrious co-host Dominic Hobson talk the biggest news from the MLB, NFL, NBA, and so much more. We also cover some things we don't talk about here on the Bulletcast, including a weekly NXT recap. You can listen to Curveballs and Chair Shots wherever you get your podcast. Just simply search Curveballs and Chair Shots. Now let's get back to the show.
Alright, y'all, and we are back. And let's go ahead and start covering some New Japan Pro Wrestling, y'all. Yes! Alright, to kick things off, we're going to go over with the New Japan Pro Wrestling Power Struggle Tour that took place overseas in Japan on Friday, October 23rd. So the opening of the match you have is your typical Young Lions showcase match between Yota Tsuji versus Yuya Uemura. So Tsuji officially won the unofficial C block for the Young Lions showcase match at the G1 Climax. And now he's facing against Uemura, which he's unfortunately placed in last, but it's all good, you know. But it was a pretty decent match, your typical Young Lions showcase, signature move for what they learned, and pretty much the same thing that we've seen it all over again, but it was a pretty impressive match too. And how much both of these gentlemen are improving so much. And at the end, Uemura answers with a deep arm drag, and he connects with a bridging double overhook suplex to pick up the victory. So Uemura definitely defeated the winner of the unofficial C block. Yeah. And then we're moving on to the next match, which is a tag team match between Kazuchika Okada and Gabriel Kidd versus the Empire. Consists of Will Ospreay and Great-O-Khan alongside Bea Priestley. And again, as I mentioned already, I skipped this match on purpose because, of course, it's Will Ospreay and Bea Priestley, and I refuse to watching both of them, you know. So, but I read the results just from, you know, journalistic purposes. So, overall, it looks like Great-O-Khan did plan Gabriel Kidd with the clock chokeslam, and he picked up the victory for Empire too. So looks like it's a pretty good match altogether from what I read. But hey, that's just me. Anyway, next up you have is a 6-man tag team match, which you have is Shingo Takagi, Hikaru Takahashi, and Bushi of LIJ versus representing Suzuki-gun, Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And that was a pretty brutal match, especially how like both teams are taking it out as a revenge since Shingo Takagi lost the never openweight title to Minoru Suzuki at the Summer Struggle finale at Jingu Stadium back in August. And then you have Hikaru and Bushi trying to take a revenge against Kanemaru and El Desperado after what happened for the vacant IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions during like the finale of the tournament too. So it is a lot of like built up animosity for both teams, and they're like fighting for each other for like because of like what's going on with like the past events. So at the end, Shingo Takagi connects with the pumping bomber to Minoru and pick up the victory for LIJ. And then afterwards, Minoru and Shingo did brawl out outside the ring and all the way to backstage where Hikaru did issue a challenge to the current IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions, y'all. So it is going to be pretty interesting to see how both teams are actually going to be like continuing with this rivalry ever since the tournament happens a while back. But hey, it's going to be worth it, though, especially for the junior heavyweight divisions, too. Yep. And then you have his next up is the 6-man tag team match, which you have is representing Bullet Club, Jay White, Kenta, and Gedo versus Kota Ibushi, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the returning Tomoki Homa. So it was a pretty fun match, especially you have, it's kind of like a built-up revenge going on, like you have is Kenta focusing on Tanahashi after what Kenta did to the briefcase that hit Tanahashi's head during the G1 Climax match tournament. And of course, you have Kota Ibushi, who is the winner of the 2020 G1 Climax 30 contract holder. Of course, the feud against Jay White. It was a lot of back and forth action with both of these teams. And of course, Gedo taking the sacrifice for what he is to protect Jay White. He is definitely the fall guy of this match, which is sad. So at the end, Kota Ibushi connected with the Kamagoye and pin Gedo to pick the victory. So it was a pretty fun match. And to move on to the next match, which is a tag team match between representing Bullet Club, Evil and Dick Togo versus representing LIJ, the current IWGP IC and heavyweight champion Tetsuya Naito and Sanada. So it is the same match that we've seen in the past, especially the rivalry still continue ever since Evil did betray LIJ to join Bullet Club. So it is something that it's like a pent up anger, especially with the story between Evil and Naito altogether. So at the end, you guys, Sanada did use the Skull submission to Dick Togo, and that's when he picked up the victory, of course. So, and afterwards, Naito did apply the Pluma Blanca to Dick Togo on the floor. So it's kind of like a sign that you don't want to mess with LIJ. And then for your main event match, boy, that main event match, it was a lot to talk about and a lot of memorable moments. And that is the Never 6-man tag team match, which is the 6-man tag team match for the Never 6-man tag team match. Titles, that's right. So the current champ representing Chaos, Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi versus representing Suzuki-gun, Taiji, Zack Sabre Jr., and Doki. And I must say that was a pretty heavy-hitting match. And I feel it was almost 30 minutes, you guys. I was so blown away because when it comes to the Never 6-man tag team titles, I feel like the title itself is kind of a little bit in at the bottom. Because, it seems like it's only whole hell for, the ones that is already a champion, alongside a mid-carder or a lower-carder, whichever the case would be. But this match itself, that sets the bar high for trying to make sure that Never 6-man is, one of the most prestigious titles of them all. And it can go to anybody in the class, whether you're a junior or the heavyweights itself. And my favorite part about this main event match is the face-off between Yoshihashi and Doki, because Doki wanted to become the new champions, and that's going to be his first title run since his debut with New Japan, while Yoshihashi, this is his second title defense, and he's trying to make sure that he got retained because that's his first ever title he held since debuting to New Japan 12 years ago. So it is a very well put, compelling stories. How both guys are trying to sacrifice, and it was amazing. And I know Ishii did compete while he has an injured knee, I believe. So I give him props to that. And it looks like Hiroki Goto is just feeling much better ever since what's going on with his shoulder blade during the G1 Climax. But yeah, it was a pretty fun match. And so you have his Doki super kick Ishii, and then he ducked the clothesline until Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi did the GTR sit down powerbomb combination. That's where Yoshihashi plants Doki with the karma to pick up the victory, and thus Chaos retain the title. So it was a really fun match and a lot of moments. And afterwards, Yoshihashi cut a promo, and it goes out to Taiji and Zack Sabre Jr. that him and Hiroki Goto wanted to challenge for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. So it is going to be kind of like this interesting story development, even though they're going to be announcing who's going to participate in the World Tag League 2020. But it's going to be pretty amazing. Very looking forward to it all together. So overall, you guys, New Japan Power Struggle Tour was really amazing. I enjoyed every aspect of the matches itself. So for my grade for it, not grade, my thumbs up, thumbs down ranking, I'm going with a 1.5 thumbs up. So yeah, so let's move on to the next segment for when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Last week's New Japan Strong, the ending of the Never Tour that took place on October 23rd. So you have is Fred Rosser versus Clark Connors, and it was just a pretty showcasing match for both competitor, like Clark Connors, like mostly doing the submission technical aspect of it, and then Fred Rosser with more of a powerhouse guy, and he did an amazing job altogether. So at the end, Fred Rosser connect with the gut check and pick up the victory. So congratulations, Fred Rosser. Make sure to block the hate no matter what. Alright, and then next up we have is ACH versus Carl Frederick. And that was a pretty impressive match from both gentlemen too. Like ACH with a whole new attitude, new demeanor. You could tell that he is ready for a fight against Carl Frederick. So they did exchange chops amongst each other, and it was pretty interesting, and to say at least, you guys. And so at the end, Carl Frederick did counter ACH Brainbuster, and then he applies the sleeper hold. Thus, of course, that's where Carl Frederick connects with the Manifest Destiny, and he pick up the victory, y'all. So congratulations, Carl Frederick. The match was pretty dope, though. And then you have is the tag team match, which you have the team of GOD versus the team of Brody King and Flip Gordon, guys. And it was just your typical tag team match of both teams are trying to battle out against each other. And so you have is Flip Gordon did super kick Tongaloa, and then Tongaloa did fight out the fireman's carry position, while Flip Gordon did with the back elbow smash, and Tongaloa plants Gordon with the stun gun to pick up the victory. So again, it was a pretty dope match, to say at least, especially like when it comes to when it comes to Brody King and Flip Gordon. Are they supposed to be heels though? Yeah, so it's going to be pretty interesting how it's going to all play out. And then your main event match, that's the match I've been waiting for. Jay White versus Rocky Romero. And that was a really impressive, incredible main event match I've seen from New Japan Strong. And it was a pretty much like what to expect as well. Like both of these gentlemen bringing their A game. Bringing in like what they all about, especially with the power and knowledge from New Japan and upper management or whichever, But yeah, and then at the end, you guys, so Rocky Romero goes for the sliced bread, but Jay White did counter with the backbreaker, and he used the Blade Runner to pin, of course, Rocky Romero. And Jay White did defeat Rocky Romero. So that was a pretty dope match. And afterwards, Jay White did cut a promo saying that he is not the force to be reckoned. He is the Switchblade. Of course, this is the new era, all that. So It seems that this is kind of like a last episode we'll be seeing JY for quite a while since he's now in overseas competing in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is pretty interesting how it's going to affect it by it, but who knows, y'all. But yeah, so all in all, New Japan Strong for the Never Tour. I'm giving it a 1.5 thumbs up. I was very impressed. Especially a little bit of flaw with the matches itself. But hey, it's all about learning and growing amongst the human being as well. Alright, you guys, so let's go and move on to the next show from this week in New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, which is, of course, the Showdown Tour. So your commentator is Alex Kozlov and Kevin Kelly, and it looks like we don't have the traditional intro from the Japanese ring announcer, so instead you have his Adrian K, which, by the way, I cannot pronounce his last name, so sorry y'all, I'm gonna say it by the first letter of his first name, so just saying. So anyway, let's kick things up. So you have a tag team match between the DKC and Clark Connors versus the Regal twin, Logan Regal, and the returning Sterling Regal. And that was really much a fun opening of the match. You have a lot of collegiate technical wizard, as all I can say, amongst all four of these gentlemen. I was so blown away with their test of strength and also how they cohesive together, especially with the Regal twins though. It was a pretty amazing scene. Both Logan and Sterling teaming up together just to protect to one another. So it was pretty impressive. So you have the DKC with the innovative power slam until Logan break in and Connor spear Logan. And that's where Sterling with the neck breaker while the DKC did apply the karate chop to both of them. And then out of nowhere, the Regal twins with the spike DDT, and thus they pick up the victory. And that was a really impressive opening of the match altogether. And then you have Blake Christian versus Carl Frederick. Not much to say. I mean, it's Blake Christian. He brought in the highest caliber in the independent wrestling scene, especially how he is handling, of course, in New Japan Pro Wrestling alike, especially with Carl Frederick. Alright, y'all. Then we're going to cut into intermission, the commercial break, which they updated the commercials. You have is that Japanese cleaning commercial from Al Scotland, Clark Connors, and Carl Fredericks, which, to quote Carl Frederick, that's pretty cool. And then you have is, of course, Rocky Romero and Alex Kozlov promoting the Toko Shop Global, which they sell the New Japan Pro Wrestling merchandise, On the old commercial, it's just Rocky Romero going on FaceTime with Juice Robinson and ordering online. And now it's just Rocky Romero and Alex Kozlov in person. The reunion of the Hooligans. Y'all remember the Hooligans? Yeah. Alrighty, so afterwards they kick things off with the main event match, which is the 8-man tag team match, which has a team of Bullet Club consists of G.O.D., Hikuleo, and Kenta versus the team of David Finlay, Mysterioso, Alex Zane, and PJ Black. And I would say that was a really good main event match altogether, especially you have Alex Zane being one of the performer that got his butt kicked, of course, which I'm sorry to say that because he was the one that's just getting more and more of this whole beating from all four members of the Bullet Club together for that. And so afterwards he did tag in David Finlay, and that's when he went into full motions against Kenta too. You see there's this rivalry going on between him and Kenta. So it was a lot of impressive moments. You got Hikuleo with a huge choke slam outside the ring to Alex Zane, of course. And that was right before he tagged in David Finlay. Kenta striking everyone, of course, like being the ruthless demeanor he is too. And of course, at the end, you have his Hikuleo with the spinning DDT to Mysterioso and pick up the victory. So, yeah, you guys, that was a pretty interesting main event match. And then afterwards, like backstage, David Finlay wanted to issue a challenge against Kenta for that contract, of course, that Kenta actually won at the New Japan Cup. So it's going to be a pretty interesting rivalry how it's going to play it out. So, for my thumbs up, thumbs down, I would give this show, because it was amazing, like all three of the matches, I was so hooked and so glued in. I'm giving it 2 thumbs up, you guys. That's how much I am very, blown away with this week's episode of New Japan Pro Wrestling's the kickoff of the Showdown tour. So, and plus it's like a near and dear to my heart because it's been 1 year since I went to my last New Japan Pro Wrestling show, Showdown, Night 1 in San Jose, California. And so they just announced 2 matches right here. So for next week, you have a spread roster versus Jordan Clearwater and the tag team match between Jeff Cobb and Rocky Romero versus Russ Taylor and the debut of course, JR Kratos. That is right, North Cal's favorite independent wrestler. They're going to force him to havoc. So, yeah. Alright, guys. So, that is it for the coverage of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And we're going to be hearing from Philip of Chicle TV.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Philip here. Look, there are so many channels out there on YouTube that do pranks and challenges and funny videos like That Just Happened TV, Nelk, and Love Live Serve. But why don't you look up Chicle TV? Yes, Chicle TV. Chikle TV. It is a channel I started with my buddy Vinny a couple years ago, and we've done wrestling finishers in public. He's done eating challenges. We've done pranks to people. It's a whole lot of fun. You know, when you go to YouTube, it is the thumbnail with the guy blowing the bubble. It says Chicle TV right in the bubble. And look, you know, just sit down, relax, hop on YouTube, look up Chicle TV, and...
Ooh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Crack open a little bit of the bubbly. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Chicle TV. Like, share, subscribe. It is the freshest channel on YouTube.
Alright, guys, and we are back. So now we're going to be doing a recap for the last episode, Impact Wrestling, which is the aftermath of Bound for Glory. It took place on Tuesday, October 27th, y'all. So you have as an opening, well, supposedly it was supposed to be an opening of the match, but no, it turned out to be a all-out brawl between Rich Swann and Eric Young. They've been brawling out outside backstage, and then in the ring until security had to be breaking in, so it's the referee. And out comes Scott D'Amore, who's trying to calm Rich down. But Rich wanted to issue a challenge, which, of course, EY wanted a rematch. So, while Scott D'Amore was pretty hesitant, but Rich kept pushing him on that he wanted a rematch right now. And so Scott did approve, and that's when the opening of the match between Rich Swann versus Eric Young for the Impact World Heavyweight title. And, you know, typical match itself, Rich Swann wrestled just on his dress pants and belt with no shoes, so pretty much barefoot. So at the end, Rich did the Phoenix Splash, and though he retained the Impact World title, definitely well deserved it too. And it's going to be curious to see what's next for EY altogether. Alrighty, so we got a backstage segment with Nevaeh checking in on Havoc, where Havoc did summon Father James Mitchell, as she said it's done, the wedding is on. And then Nevaeh did drop the quote, which is inspired from this episode. I have a bad feeling about this. Indeed. So it's going to be interesting what's happening. You know. Yeah. And so anyway, you have it's the backstage with the Knockouts and Caleb with the K, because he is Tennille Dashwood's personal photographer. So, yeah, so Alicia Edwards did knock and waiting for Scott D'Amore to come out until Caleb, with the K, said that the Knockouts Tag Team Tournament is going to start in 3 weeks. So Alicia is very hesitant to look for a partner. Tennille and Caleb with the K left after she had a brief stare with Jordan Grace. And so once Tasha and Kiera Hogan came by, and that's when Jordan Grace did step up for Alicia after she's been picked on by, of course, Tasha Steele and Kiera Hogan. So that's going to be later on in the match, but we'll get into that. And then you have a match, which is a hardcore Halloween match between Tommy Dreamer versus Brian Myers. I expected to have some Halloween decorations for this match, or some sort of weaponry that is representing Halloween, but it doesn't feel like a Halloween match. It's just your typical hardcore street fight match without the Hello Kitty or other gimmicky Halloween decoration you could come up with. If I say Hello Kitty or any cartoon characters or even a Halloween decoration, if you wanted pumpkins or a skull or a tombstone or anything that is a creepy too. But it doesn't, like I said, it's just a typical street fight match. So the weapons they are using, they have bedsheets, trash cans, plastic trash cans, walkers, ring bell, wet floor sign, kendo stick, and of course the bag of apples, of course. So it is pretty much again, a typical street fight match, but a lot of memorable moments too. You have is Tommy Dreamer did there's a bag and he spilled, it's a mixture of candy corn, which by the way is gross by the way, and thumbtacks. Ouch. You don't want to land in those two horrible things, especially when it comes to candy corn too. It's disgusting. Yeah. And so it looks like Tommy Dreamer brought the tables just to set up for it, but then Brian Myers did clothesline Dreamer as he landed on the thumbtacks. But then out of nowhere, where that plastic trash can was, that is tipped over, well, it looks like we have a surprise, and it's been confirmed. That's right, Swoggle came out from the trash with bubble gums, of course. Not bubble gums. It's a barbecue tongs. I kind of mixed up with the notes too because it's on the mouth. So yeah, botch. Yeah. So he brought out a barbecue tongs. That's right. And of course, Brian Myers breaking kayfabe. He was like, "What are you doing here, Dylan?" Oh my god. And so Swoggle used the barbecue tongue and then crushed it between Brian Myers' junk. Oh my god. And then that's when Tommy Dreamer took the advantage to use the Death Valley driver through the table, and thus he did pick up the victory. So it's a pretty decent match. Again, it doesn't feel like a hardcore Halloween match. I expected a Halloween theme for it. But yeah, it is what it is. And then, of course, he has a backstage segment between Heath and Rhino being interviewed by Gia Miller. So, again, Heath is going to be out for a while because of a torn hernia, and he's going to be needing to acquire surgery. So, therefore, Rhino only gets 1 year to call his shot, of any title of his choosing. And he stated that next week, Heath is definitely going to sign a contract to be part of the Impact Wrestling roster, you guys. So, yeah. It is going to be pretty interesting how it's going to go, and then within the long run too, especially continuing with the Heath for Impact. Oh yeah. And then another backstage you have is Fallah Bob being countered by Hernandez and Reno Scott about the whole water cash situation, which of course Fallah Bob did lie to Hernandez, saying that it was Johnny Bravo's fault because he is the one that's supposed to be paying for the wedding, which Fallah Bob did not, of course, which he actually kept the wad of cash altogether. So, just, being a selfish person he is, but we'll see what's going on, especially that wedding right around the corner for this. Yeah. We'll see. Because, he actually said another quote, of course, I have a bad feeling about this. Just like what Nevaeh say, and that's what he said. Anyway, y'all, so let's go to move on to the next match you have is the team of the Rascals versus Triple XL. I mean, it's your typical rematch we saw before. I mean, of course, like, a lot of back and forth action, especially a lot of, like, memorable moments, too, especially with Larry D. Did the crossbody top rope, landed on Dez, and therefore, Triple XL did pick up a victory in a pretty impressive match altogether. But, not much to say. I mean, I just wish that there's, like, a title opportunity for one of the teams that they could go up against the North, but who knows. And then you have a backstage segment with Scott D'Amore alongside Deonna Purrazzo, Kimberly, and a lawyer who happens to be R.D. Evans, of course, who actually works behind the scene with Impact Wrestling as one of the staff members. Just wanted to point that out there. So R.D. Evans wants Scott to just come into the ring and have Su Yung to relinquish the title and give it to Deonna Purrazzo. So Scott D'Amore has no choice just to do the right thing. So he just came by to outside, and of course the Deonna Purrazzo saying, "Oh, that's good to the lawyer." But yeah, anyway, now we have Jim Miller did interview Motor City Machine Gun, which, as I promised, an update about Alex Shelley. So yes, he did injure his neck, and he did provide the update that he's going to be out for 2 months, so he's definitely going to be taking a break. Of course, he did take off the neck brace just to make sure that, he is okay, nothing too serious. It's just that he needs to rest up, especially when it comes to, like, having a brutal neck injury from that double hook powerbomb from Josh Alexander at Bound for Glory. Yeah. And so he just wanted to make sure. And so afterwards, Chris Sabin wanted a rematch against the North until they got, of course, interfered by Larry D of Triple XL. And he won a title opportunity as well against the North. And of course, he was kind of like being like a bully to Motor City Machine Guns, of course, until like Alex Shelley did call him out, and of course they both got into a brawl, and that's where Alex Shelley did get hurt once again. But yeah, anyway, back to like the part where Scott D'Amore is going to be coming into the ring, and that's where he explained the whole situation, and then that's where like Deonna Purrazzo, Kimberly, and R.D. Evans, they came out not impressed because Scott D'Amore said that Su Yung is still the Knockouts champion, of course. And of course, R.D. Evans kind of like threatening Scott D'Amore about like it's going to be a while to take him to court and whatnot. And so Scott D'Amore, being a man he is, he said that how about a rematch next week for the Knockouts title, Su Yung versus Deonna Purrazzo, which Deonna did agree. And then out comes, of course, the undead bride, Su Yung. That's where she came out. And she did the double mandible claws to R.D. Evans and Kimberly. And she spit red mist to Scott D'Amore. And that's where Deonna Purrazzo did attack her until, of course, Su Yung did counter. And then she did the mandible claw to Deonna Purrazzo. So, yep. They set up the whole rematch for next week. That's right, Deonna Purrazzo and Su Yung for the Knockouts title. Alright, and then you have the backstage segment between Rich Swann, the Rascals, and Willie Mack. And then out comes Moose, interviewing with the old TNA title as he called out Rich Swann the second best, And is it just me, or is it Moose kind of like talking slower than expected? I think it's because this whole like situation with him and EC3 that he's trying to like control his own narrative or something like that down. Like, I don't know, you guys. Like, he was, like, talking so slow, like, within, like, less than 5 seconds. Like, let's just say that. But, yeah, so Rich got really ticked off from moves, and he wanted to attack him until, like, the Rascal did try to protect him and break him up, you know? And then out comes Willie Mack, and he wanted to issue a challenge to Moose. And Moose was like, we'll see about that. And so after, like, the Rascal did check in on Rich Swann, you know, he did walk away, and then out comes, of course, he ran into Sami Callihan and Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock. So it is going to be a potential feud in the making just for the Impact World title. Pretty intriguing, you guys. But yeah. Anyway, and then you have is another segment where the North is telling the story, just like in same fashion as the Good Brothers. And then out comes the Good Brothers until they were talking smack to one another until, like, boom, there's a fight between them, and then they have to have the security getting involved too. Interesting. And now we're gonna go with the women's match, you guys. So you have is Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steele versus Alicia Edwards and Jordynne Grace. The match ends in 8 minutes and 45 seconds. So Alicia Edwards has the new theme song because her old theme song, mind you, remember the women's tag team tournament from AEW? That theme song they use is actually Alicia Edwards' theme song. So I'm glad she got a new updated theme. It sounds a bit better, you know. Very questionable taste in music on my end, but yeah. So anyway, it was a pretty alright tag team match, even though, like, there has been, like, a miscommunication between Alicia Edwards and Jordynne Grace when it comes to trying to tag teaming together. So it was a lot of, like, trash talking going on between Kiera and Tasha, you know, trying to, intervene all together. But, yep. And then at the end, Tasha with the schoolgirl rolled up to, I believe it was to Alicia Edwards, yeah, and pick up the victory, you guys. So, yeah, it was a pretty decent knockouts match. It's not the best, not the worst, but it's, like, overall pretty decent, too. And these ladies, they did an absolutely incredible job. All right. And then next up we have is Willie Mack, meeting a fan, getting a selfie until he got ambushed by Moose. So, yep. So we got a new feud into making, Moose and Willie Mack. And then it looks like that women's tag team match was actually the last match because, of course, they announced that it's supposed to be a wedding between Johnny Bravo and Rosemary. So, forgot to say that Johnny Bravo did kicked out of Fall Above as a best man because of the mishap for Fall Above. Like, he kind of not trust him anymore because of the whole water cash situation. But yeah. And so we have as a backstage between Taya and Rosemary where they had like an intimate girl talk where Taya did warn Rosemary about Johnny Bravo's diva attitude, which, excuse me, he got it from you, Taya. I'm just saying, though. But yeah, and then here comes Alicia Edwards, which she did finish her match with Jordynne Grace, of course. Which I forgot to tell you guys. Oh, yeah. Kiera Hogan, Tasha Steele did defeat them. So, yeah, and so the whole tag team situation between Jordynne Grace and Alicia Edwards did not work out very well. So, yeah. So, Alicia came by and say, did I miss anything? And then that's where Taya said, I have a bad feeling about this. And that's where Alicia Edwards said, why is everyone saying this? Yeah. And that's what the inspiration of this episode is. I have a bad feeling about this, too. But, yeah. So it comes down to the wedding of the century. Rosemary and Johnny Bravo's wedding. So everybody is in their Halloween costume. I think, like, when I look closely with Triple XL costume, it said, like, Blue World Order or NWA. I gotta take a look at it because they say WO on it. I say, is it a tribute to BLO or... I gotta like look closely for that. So everybody in their costume, you have Alicia Edwards dressing up as a urban version of Dorothy of the Wizard of Oz, followed by dressing up as like a marshmallow man. I mean, the costume itself is outlandish. Tennille Dashwood as a sexy cat. You have is Caleb with the K, dressing up as one of the characters from the Clockwork Orange. So I kind of like marked out a bit too, because Clockwork Orange was kind of like a very brutal horror and messed up movie. But yeah. Anyway, so you have 1 second. Yep, I have to take a sip of my Gatorade just to make sure my throat is on point, which we're almost done with this, so mind you guys, so pardon me. I'm okay. It's not the Rona. It's just me talking. Alrighty, so out comes Father James Mitchell made his return. That is right. He's going to officiate the wedding. And then here comes Johnny Bravo by himself. And then here comes the bride. Rosemary coming out with Crazy Steve. Of course, her fellow members of the Decay. And Rosemary was actually wearing like a Beetlejuice-inspired suit, which she looks very lovely, of course, especially fit with that whole Halloween theme wedding that it was enjoyed. So, of course, once she came out face to face with Johnny Bravo, which he dressed up kind of like a groom. Well, sort of like a groom, but almost like a pimpish groom. Anyway, so they did exchange their vows and they both exchanged the vows and also like exchanged the rings, of course. Once they were about to kiss, that's when the lights out. And then when the lights back on, you saw Johnny Bravo laying there dead. And Tommy Dreamer checked and he said, who shot Johnny Bravo? And yeah, you guys, that is the end of Impact Wrestling. Oh boy. Let me go ahead and get this sip of this Gatorade. You guys, hold on. To quote Lovely T, honey. Okay. Now, my issue with this ending of it, I'm not feeling this ending at all. I thought like the wedding itself should be the end all, send all, and then have like, you know, kind of like a little bit of a feud going, a situation between Rosemary Ty and Johnny Bravo by Johnny Bravo's attitude. Instead, you have him being killed off. I'm sorry, this is kind of like the hokiest ending I've seen in quite a while. I know that some of the stars are defending the storyline because it's like unique and it's like more like different. To me, it's like that is kind of like you're pushing that segment away from everybody. And especially like you're trying to rebuild the company itself. Like Slammiversary, the company did an incredible job. Like it looks like they have hope to rebuild the brand because of the reputation. Now look what happened. I feel it's like 2 steps backwards from this storyline. And it got to a point where it's like, my main concern is that is it going to be interfering like with the whole like women's tag team like knockouts tag team tournament situation for the knockouts tag team title? I hope not, because the fact that like the majority like this whole wedding preparation situation, you have the knockouts tag team involved. And I really don't want the fact that like with this segment, it's definitely going to be hurting Impact Wrestling's credibility. That actually kind of irks me a bit too. Like, so I'm not feeling this segment whatsoever. And it kind of like ruined a little bit of this episode of Impact Wrestling besides we only have is just 3 matches. So one that was like unexpectedly. The other one is like you expected a Halloween theme, but it's not. And then you have is a Knockouts tag team match, which it was alright, but it was a little bit better than the past 2 matches together. And then the rest is like all segments too. Like I know that the next Impact Plus exclusive pay-per-view is actually Turning Point, which is November 14th. I'm just hoping with this situation about the whole Johnny Bravo shooting situation and whatnot, it should just be the end-all stand-up at Turning Point, because I want everyone to focus on is just getting ready to prepare for Hard to Kill and just taking it a little bit seriously instead of like having a bit of like this like hokey segment together. I'm okay with Wrestle House, but this one, I'm not feeling it together. So that is my 2 cents on the ending of it, because I know I have a lot to say, so this is what I have to say so far. And yeah, so for my thumbs up, thumbs down of Impact Wrestling, like I said, there's only 3 matches. Like for that, only 1 match has been announced, and then you have is like the rest of the segment and like the replays for Bound for Glory. I feel that it just needed a little bit more work to do because you're kind of like drawing away from the audience. So therefore, you guys, I hate to say it, I'm giving it a 1 thumbs up, you know. I just hope next week for Impact Wrestling, they better step it up a bit. And they already announced the 4 matches total for next week's Impact Wrestling. So you have Su Yung versus Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts title. You have Eddie Edwards and Rich Swann will be teaming up against Eric Young and Sami Callihan with Ken Shamrock. Then you have Trey Miguel versus Chris Bay. And you have Ethan Page versus Luke Gallows. So yeah, those are the matches for next week for Impact Wrestling, y'all. And for that, it's going to be on the day of the election day, you guys. So I wanted to touch base a little bit real quick. So that's right, November 3rd is the most important day ever in US of A. Like I said on the last episode, Into the Stratusphere, I did vote early on October 20th. And this is a very crucial time, you guys, especially in this nation. And it's all about like who's going to be the next leader and also for the policies, you guys. As you guys know that on election day, I'm actually going to be volunteering to be the poll worker because I know that there is a shortage of poll workers because of the pandemic. I decided to volunteer so that way I want to make a difference for everybody too. And I already took the courses that I needed. I met with the inspection, so I'm very excited to take this opportunity, especially to do good for this country and as a whole too. So you guys, please make sure conscious decision on that too, because this is a very crucial time, especially in this social era of it all in this country too. So that's all I'm going to say for it. So please keep in mind for that. All right. Therefore, you guys, that is for the video and for the episode and the audio, all that stuff on Hallows Eve. You guys can tell that, man, Halloween kind of warmed me up. All right, y'all. So if you guys want to DM me questions or anything like that in general, please make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on my YouTube channel at simply_C_OK. That's SIMPLY_C_OK. And make sure to follow the Bulletcast on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to this channel at the Bulletcast on YouTube. And also make sure to follow the Bulletcast on any podcasting platform, which is Anchor FM, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitchers, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and so on and so forth, you guys. So yeah, anyway, you guys, with that being said, please remember to wash your hands 20 to 30 seconds. Please make sure to maintain social distancing. Wear a face mask or any type of face covering. No excuses. And like I said, please remember to just make your own decision, especially when it comes to November 3rd. And remember, as always, please make sure to be kind to one another. We're all in this together. Till then, I'll see you on the next episode Into the Stratusphere. Cheers, y'all, and happy Halloween.